We're here at the Muse Project space in East London with a solo exhibition of Christopher Kulendran called When Platitude Becomes Form. Chris, I read quite a nice sentence in the press release that synthesizes very well your work. The patronizing openness of instrumentalizing cultural exchange is explicitly perverted here by the colonial trading patterns that it usually masks, setting in motion a conspiracy of contingencies that extend beyond the work's as yet visible horizons. Can you elaborate further this sentence, please?
Well, it's interesting you pick up on that line because the kind of so-called cultural exchange through art that is usually done by post-imperial institutions like the British Council, for example, attempts some sort of collaboration between cultures, generally to mask the underlying economic patterns that are anything but equal. And in this case, the ongoing work, When Platitudes Become Form, is made by my reconfiguring of artworks by some of Sri Lanka's foremost young contemporary artists. I reconfigured them for the international, well, Western art market in order to fund community organising activities in the formerly occupied territories of the north and east of Sri Lanka, where there's currently no other resources that are not strictly under government control.
It's quite interesting because I read recently in a book from Moscow, What If Latin America was something about this remarketing of the commodities from the non-Western worlds. And what he says that, and that's surprising, neoliberalism market policies, that the Western world goes to the periphery, gets the natural resources from the periphery and bring it to the center, and then just remarket it as a new product, or sometimes not even as a new product, and then sell it back either to the periphery and to the center, and not getting back anything to the periphery. And you just do that in your work, but you give it a twist.
Yeah, I think the work here is cited not just in the gallery, but also in a manipulation of the systems of distribution by which the work circulates. And it certainly uses the same processes, except perhaps for the opposite purpose, supporting activities in the formerly Tamil-occupied territories of the north and east of Sri Lanka, which certainly wouldn't be supported by the usual post-imperial trading patterns.
That's quite interesting. You don't create nothing, or you don't create something out of nothing. You give form to something that doesn't have form. And how does your work inform about conflict?
Well, I think this work is entirely born out of conflict. I mean, I was born in London in the late 70s after my parents fled the beginnings of the civil war in Sri Lanka that ended in 2009 in really the most brutal way I could have imagined. And over the last 2 years, with peace in the formerly war-torn Sri Lanka, a contemporary art boom has happened with the first kind of Western-style commercial galleries representing contemporary art. So I think my work translates what counts as contemporary in one part of the world into what counts as contemporary in another part of the world, and exploits the difference, perhaps.
That's a discussion we've been having already for a couple of weeks. Contemporary art and the price of contemporary art and what is contemporary art in contemporary world. And you being an artist born and working in London, and you're a contemporary artist here, but you notice that you're different contemporary art from Sri Lanka. And how you deal with this anthropological issue in contemporary art through your work, or how you form it?
Yeah, I think there is a kind of anthropology here. The works that I'm reconfiguring are purchased from a new generation of contemporary art galleries in Sri Lanka that have become successful after the end of the civil war in 2009, really brutally actually. And following that, there's been a contemporary art boom in Sri Lanka with the first Western style commercial galleries, as I mentioned. But the anthropology cuts both ways, I think, in that there's also an anthropology of what counts as contemporary here, and it's that difference that's being exploited. I actually think that contemporary art might be a limited art historical period that we might look back on as the art of neoliberalism, and that is perhaps coming to an end with the fall from dominance of the West.
No, you're completely right, but that's a discussion we're going to have at a different time.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you.